Om Shanti, and a very good evening to all of you. Welcome to this evening session on embracing simplicity. It's a lovely topic for us to explore, especially when we just find some of the challenges in our lives that can be so complex, and things never seem to be straightforward, but seem to be intertwined with many other things. So I thought it would be nice to explore this topic today, just for us to begin to untangle a few of the beliefs that we hold, and maybe to untangle some of the misconceptions that we have. Just give me a second. This one. Okay, right. Some of the misconceptions that we have, so that we can actually experience a greater sense of fullness and calm and inner stability. When I think of the topic on simplicity, I'm reminded of Daddy Janki. Some of you have met Daddy Janki, some of you may have heard of Daddy Janki before, but Daddy was one of the founding members of the organization and was also at one point the administrative head of the organization. And she always reminded us of three things. She would tell us purity, cleanliness, and simplicity. These were like three pillars in her life. And when you go to Mount Abu, there's a memorial that's built of her life. And the pillars, we have these three things: purity, cleanliness, and simplicity. And it reminds me of the aspect that simplicity is built on the bedrock of purity and cleanliness. That when what makes life so complex? And there's two things I feel. One is it's the ego that makes life very complex, and we'll talk about that. And the second thing that makes life very, very complex is expansion. When we move away from essence, from what is really meaningful, and we get into the expansion of things, too much of analysis and too much of desire that's embedded in things, that doesn't really add value, but just is things we hang on to. So expansion and ego is in some ways what creates a lot of the complexity in life. So when we come to purity, it has to start with purity. And what do we mean by purity? Purity is really about a shift in consciousness. And that is really about moving away from defining myself as body, as defining myself as the physical identities that I've held on to, and really coming back to that deeper spiritual awareness that I am consciousness, I am a soul, I'm a living spark of immortal energy. And when I come back to this understanding of the self as a soul and as a self as consciousness, it then begins to create a foundation for me. The foundation of true self-respect. Because if I don't have that foundation of true self-respect, then I'm searching for self-respect in things and in outcomes and in people and in positions, etc. It's like I give my power to things outside of me so that I can gain a sense of respect for myself. I need to find a reason to respect myself outside of me. And the issue with that is that that will always fluctuate. You know, it's like today I may be holding a good position and people respect me for my position and my contribution, etc. I'm popular today. And that will never last forever. You know, there will always be someone out there who will find fault in me. And not only will they find fault in me, but there will come a moment where maybe I do make a mistake as well. So what happens then? It's like the respect that I've been waiting to draw on from the outside does not come. And so then that creates an instability inside. So therefore, purity is important because purity means that I create this foundation of soul consciousness. I learn to respect myself because I am a child of the divine. I'm a consciousness, and that I inherently have the qualities of positivity, of love, of peace, of courage. All virtues are inherently a part of me. And my journey as a soul is really to tap into that innate aspect of myself, to rediscover, reconnect, reawaken, relive that innate um, aspect of myself, that innate qualities of myself, that inner being that I am. It's like making my inner world rich. And that's what I feel is what purity is all about. It's like getting rid of all the clutter. And the clutter is really the memories of the past that we hold on to. So getting rid of all of that clutter, it's like getting rid of the old belief systems that I've been holding on to, based on thinking of myself as a physical body, based on the attachment I've had of myself, based on what I look like, what I do, what I believe in, where I come from, my family, my history. It's like just letting go of that, releasing myself from that. And so that's the first level. It's that shift in consciousness that I need. And though we know it, theoretically, that's the stage of purity that we need. Knowing it and knowing about it is the first step in transforming. But it takes a lot of attention and time, and it takes a lot of um, reflection on the self to see, do I still slip back into that? This morning I was having a session with a group of women from Asia, and I was just noticing that sometimes we can come from a culture which tells us that everything has to be very accurate. And while that is a good thing to have as a motivation to everything that I do, that I make sure it's to the best of my ability. But the downside of coming from that is that because I want to be accurate in everything, I can also be very hard on myself when I feel I'm not getting there 100%. I may be getting there 80%, but I'm almost afraid to give myself credit for the 80% that I do get, because I keep feeling I'm not yet 100, I'm not yet 100. So do you ever find yourself, sometimes feeling that, that I'm not good enough, I'm not pure enough, I'm not right enough, I'm not, that whole not enough that we can get caught into. And that isn't coming from a place of soul. That is coming from a place of ego. That whole aspect of not enough. Because that not enough is where I am comparing myself to something outside of me. And that's why I think I'm not enough. And so that level of purity of soul consciousness is really to go inward and to know that I am enough. I just have to awaken it. I am enough, but I just need to reconnect with it. And it's not a comparison with anyone else, but it's like this inward inner journey of reconnecting. It's an inward journey of realizing and feeling comfortable with who I am again. That's the key thing. And it's about love, loving the self. And so that's the first aspect of purity that I find is important. It's just like watching which level of consciousness am I operating from? Where is it that I'm coming from? And is there still these fragments and old belief systems that I'm still holding on to? And am I constantly challenging myself and saying, but that's not truth. That is an old pattern of thinking. And one thing to always realize is that we hold on to things because somehow we feed off it. It gives us something in return. And so we have to check, what am I feeding off that I'm holding on to this? Is it self-pity? Is it so that I can make excuses for myself? Is it so that I can, justify my behavior? Or is it that I can procrastinate? Or whatever the case may be. So why am I feeding off this? And how is it, serving me in an inaccurate way? So that is something I need to check. And that's what I feel purity is all about, is I need to cleanse myself of these more subtle aspects that I cling on to. The second thing was cleanliness that Daddy always spoke of. And when I thought of cleanliness, that how does cleanliness differ from that aspect of purity? So purity is the level of consciousness. And then when I looked at cleanliness, I really felt that what she was always trying to draw our attention to was that in order to move forward, I have to clean my heart. And that is that not to hold feelings of sorrow, feelings of bitterness, feelings of regret, feelings of shame, feelings of anger or resentment in my heart. I have to cleanse my heart of these emotions. And these are emotions we all have experienced at some point or another. And many times these emotions have left an impression on our hearts. And you know what happens is, when you have the experience of these emotions, what usually happens, we sort of do this, don't we? We sort of curl in, we close up. The heart closes up when we have these experiences of these emotions. And that is what makes life very complex, because once we close up, we are constantly trying to protect the heart. And as we protecting the heart, we become very fearful of the world around us. And we begin to interpret the world around us in many ways, um, that that comes from this place of holding on to these emotions within ourselves. And so cleaning the heart, and although this is what we know we need to do, how do I release my heart from the emotions that I have accumulated over time, that are not healthy emotions? And I found a couple of methods that are helpful. One is I write a letter to either my higher self or to God. And it's almost like being transparent with these emotions, not to hide them, not to cover up for them, not to make excuses for them, but just to accept that they are there without a feeling of shame about it, but with a lot of compassion, accepting those emotions inside of me and writing to, as I said, to my higher self or to God about it. And it's in that act of transparency that I begin to find that they begin to have less of a hold over me. And the second thing that I like doing is that when I look at these emotions, then I begin to see, okay, what is it telling me that is lying beneath the emotion? Because beneath the emotion, there's always a need. You know, is there a need to be heard? Is there a need to be acknowledged? Is there a need to feel respected? Is there a need to have space? Is there a need to feel a sense of value? So, what is the actual need underneath the emotion? You know, emotion is like the static um, that is not allowing you to really tune into the radio channel that you want to be in. But the channel you want to be in is the actual need. So take time to just reflect a little bit, that what is lying beneath the emotion, and you'll find the need. And then it's like something more tangible that you can work with. Because as I said, emotions is what makes life very complex. You know, you're never sure. You know, I don't know if you've ever had the experience, but I've had, you know, that when you have a relationship with someone that's a bit fiery, putting it mildly, and then you find that every time you're in that person's presence or you need to communicate with that person, how you are so unsure of how you need to approach, what you need to say, are you going to do it right or not? And it just becomes such a tense experience because you can't be yourself, you can't be free, you can't be light. So, therefore, cleaning the heart is important. Now, purity and cleaning the heart, both of these aspects, you know, is um, a way of letting go of the ego. Because as I said, ego creates complexity, and ego also creates expansion. Ego counts, ego compares. And so when I break free from this ego in a way, then what emerges is a natural humility. And where there's humility, there's fearlessness and there's freedom. I'm not afraid of how I'm going to be judged, because where there's humility, I can just be. You know, there's a lovely story of Mahatma Gandhi, and I think he was someone who was very comfortable in his skin. because he had a deep um, awareness. What he stood for was truth, and he was very comfortable with that. So he was going to meet the Queen when he went to England, and a journalist said, "Mr. Gandhi, you're going to meet the Queen. Don't you think you should wear other clothes?" Because Gandhi used to just wear the simple dhoti and a shawl over. And Gandhi's reply was, "I think the Queen wears enough clothes for both of us." And why I'm thinking of this story of Gandhi, um, number one, it makes one smile. But number two as well is that with this simplicity, I don't have to put on an appearance. I can just be myself, completely, utterly comfortable. And when I connect with the other, I'm connecting with what brings meaning between us, not not the fronts we put on in front of each other. Because until I don't do this work of purity and cleanliness, what tends to happen is that we we relate not with each other, but our egos are relating with each other's egos. And that's where the complexity comes in. That's where the difficulty comes in. But when I choose to be humble because I've done the work that allows me to reach that stage of humility, then what happens is I can relate to you fearlessly, with confidence, and I'm able to connect with the other, that will allow us to create a sense of deeper meaning and interaction. So I find that's what humility does. Humility brings that fearlessness. And it also allows me to be very transparent. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not putting any pretenses, etc. So I can be very transparent. And with that transparency as well, it also allows me to be very open to learn from the other. And by this, I mean that I'm willing to be vulnerable, and not feel I have to put up an armor of all knowing and all being, but I can be open to learn, to adjust, to grow, to redefine, to re explore things in myself. Um, talking about Daddy Janki, uh, she was already in her late 80s, and we were in Mount Abu, and we were having one of our workshops, and one of our brothers was facilitating something on team building or something of that nature. And Dadi attended the session, sat at the back with her notebook, and was listening very intently, taking down notes. Now, someone with her level of experience and personal study and experience, um, you know, it was like her her knowledge was so complete in the way she responded to things, yet she was an eternal student till her last day. She never ever held the attitude, "I know it and I've arrived." But always that there is something more to learn, there is something more to refine in myself, there is something that another can also teach me. So I think this aspect of humility enables one to be so transparent and allow oneself to be so vulnerable as well, so that I'm open to learning. And that then makes life so simple in a way, because I enter a space and I don't have to feel I know it all or have to be it all, but I'm open to see what can I learn, what can I connect with. I don't feel threatened by the spaces that I come into, but I really feel that I can contribute in my little way because I'm open to learn and connect with. I think a real important aspect of simplicity as well in life is to reduce. We live in a world where we accumulate far too much, more than what we need. And without knowing, all the stuff that we have accumulated is in a way, sometimes we're drawing a false sense of security from it. And none of this is actually going to give us the security we really need. Ultimately, dust to dust. And so when we reduce things around us, and let go of what is not needed, it creates space for us, space for newness, space for creativity, space. It's like the soul can breathe when there is that kind of space. I know last year there was those storms, tornadoes that took place in um, near Tongat, I think it was. And, houses and roofs were blown off and things like that. And the tornado really affected some of the wealthier communities. And so, you think of it, oh, I have my solid roof and my burglar bars and all of that. But there came the tornado and none of that helped. It all just flew into the air. And so really to know that, the things we tend um to use as my security, they're perishable. And the more I reduce and keep things, um, to a point that it's comfortable, but not to hoard, not to keep too much, um, then I begin to find that I have more breathing space. And so simplicity in that way also is important. You know, in the old days with Daddy Janki and them, it was like the founder, Brahma Baba, he would suddenly tell them, right, off you go. You need to go to Pune, or you need to go to Calcutta, or you need to go to Delhi, or wherever, you know. And so they were trained to have a tiny little suitcase like this and two sets of clean clothes and one set that they were wearing, and off they went wherever the need was. So I'm not sure we can do that today, but what I'm just saying is that there's a kind of internal freedom when I don't have too much. And I find the simplicity as well that comes into my life then is that I'm liberated and I'm flexible when I'm not bogged down with having too much and being and trying to protect too much. So that's another aspect of simplicity that's important. Now, I want to come back to three practices, and we call these the practice of the three dots, which is, I think, helps to deepen this uh, feeling of lightness that comes because I'm living a simple life. The first dot is the dot of soul consciousness, reminding myself that I am a soul. And um, when I come to this awareness of soul consciousness, then I come back to this essence that my true value, my true uh, sense of self respect comes innately from who I am, not what I have, not what I do, not where I come from, but who I am internally. So I come back to this practice again and again of who am I? Okay. And then the second dot is always to connect with the divine. You know, in a sense that my source of strength, my source of connection, my source of nourishment, my source of power is with the alignment of the one above. And so that's the connection that I maintain. Everything else cannot give me real power. Power, as we see in the world today, is used in a very destructive manner. But real power, true power, innate power is the power that comes to the connection with the divine. And it is with this connection with the divine that I really get to know my deeper self. Because it's like almost the relationship with the divine becomes the mirror through which I can see my own divinity. So it's a very deep and a lovely connection that we create. So it's that aspect of the second dot of creating this connection with the divine. And then the third dot is the dot of really everything that happens and situations that occur. It's also to know that at the end of the day, there is meaning in everything. And sometimes I don't understand what's the meaning behind things, but I need to have the faith that there's meaning and purpose behind everything. And so I don't have to go into the questioning of why and what and how and whatever. It's like, you know, if you're traveling a long distance, let's say we're driving from Johannesburg to Cape Town, for example, and we know the direction we need to go, we know the route that we need to take. But when we're traveling at night, for example, we can only see as far as the light shines in a way. And so that's the whole thing, that right now I can only perceive a certain distance ahead of me. As long as I keep my intention of where I want to head to, and I keep my focus of where I need to go, but I don't always have to see the entire path of where I'm going. I just know, let me take the steps that I need to take to get to where I need to get to. So that is also an important element, and that's where I have faith in life. You know, it's like a, a puzzle or a tapestry. You may not be able to see the whole picture right now, but you work with the pieces that are in front of you. You work with the patch that you have in front of you, and you trust that at the end of the day, the whole picture will make sense. And I find that this is a very important attitude to put a dot to all the chaos that is happening around us, because if we try to analyze what is happening, it doesn't make sense. It just feels like everything has become topsy-turvy in the world, and we can very easily get very entangled in this um, sense of trying to make meaning out of things. But if I just understand, let me work with what is in front of me, let me do what I can do. Um, so when I connect with the source and I feel that connection, it will awaken in me that I'm not helpless, that I can do, So as I do what I can do and keep applying myself in that way, I can then begin to slowly see a picture developing. And that picture will develop and become greater and greater and greater. Because the principle that we're working with in the Brahma Kumaris is really this deep faith that when I change, my world changes. And I think as crazy as the world is getting, that's one thing that we should not lose faith in. That when I shift things in myself, my perceptions, my consciousness, I'm making a positive change that's going to create a better world. And as I do it, you do it, and the other does it. And yes, change, if it ever had occurred, only happens when those who think alike come together and form a powerful collaboration between them. So, really, that feeling of the third aspect of, bringing things to essence, not to get entangled in the analysis of things that are happening. Keep the mind simple, not naive, but simple in a way that I will simply be positive. There's a lovely story of Dadi Janki again, and um, Sister Jayanti shares the story that once there was someone who came to Dadi and she made some promises to Dadi, and Dadi said, yes, okay, fine. And when this person left the room, Sister Jayanti asked Dadi, Dadi, are you going to trust her again? She has let you down so many times before. And Dadi's response was, so do you want me not to trust? And in a way, she was wise. She knew the capacity of this individual. She knew this individual had a tendency of always giving promises, but not always fulfilling them. But she also knew that her principle is to trust. And so she's not going to compromise on her principle because of another's personality. And I think that's the whole thing, that in our lives as well, it's like, be simple in being clear about what your internal principles are. I love because I love, I care because I care, I trust because I trust. Um, I have faith because I have faith, not because I'm expecting a particular outcome or I'm wanting a return in any way. You see, when we're expecting something in return, then it's like we transacting with life. And that transactions with life or with God or with the universe or whatever we want to say, when it don't goes our way, it creates the confusion, it creates the complexity that we find ourselves in. So, it's almost like to be childlike in in our principles, the way we follow them and the way we live them, and the way we act with them. It's like that purity with which we live them, and that will see us through. That will see us through, uh, because we light, we free, we fearless with that, um, and that's where our strength, and that's where our strength lies, and that's where the magic happens. Okay, so I want to stop there before we end off with the meditation, but I'd like to leave a bit of space for anyone who has questions or comments to make. Anyone? It all made sense to you, I hope, to remain simple in different ways. Okay. I see there's a few names that I recognize here. And so I'm going to ask, maybe you want to share, Sister Shobha, would you like to share how you've cultivated simplicity in your life?
Om Shanti and good evening. Thank you, Pratibha Ben, for the most enlightening and inspirational talk. Yes, I feel I have moved up. And as you said, when you join people who are positive, that your consciousness is at the same level, then definitely there's an upliftment. And as Dadi Janki said, we must always believe in three things: the truth, simplicity, and cleanliness.
Mm.
And I find that so simple. And it's just that you have to keep reminding yourself, live in that awareness. And once you
Yeah,
live in that awareness, then it becomes your lifestyle.
right, right. I think
And
it's a
each
key.
one, sorry.
Go ahead.
And I feel that each one will teach one then.
Yeah,
Just by
yeah,
being that, each one will teach one.
right. Yeah. I think a key thing that you have highlighted is that the importance of holding it in our awareness. Because it's like when we hold something in our awareness, then it's like we're building the capacity for it. Um, and then it becomes easier to draw from it to live it. So that's important. Yeah. Yeah. Good. So Hiloni is sharing that I like the point of I trust because I trust. It touched a lot. Yeah, it's so important. We're so conditioned into saying, I will do this because of, or because I'm expecting something in return or whatever. But actually, I really feel that to look at one's deeper principles that you feel are important for you and to know, I do that because I do that, not because of, because that is who I am. And then it creates like a clarity for my decisions, for my choices, and how I choose to respond. Yeah, it's important. Good. Anyone else would like to share? I see Sadhna and I see Sandra. Any of you would like to share before I end off with the meditation?
Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Thank you
Hello.
so much. Hello. A beautiful, beautiful talk. I keep on telling myself and trying to understand also, we accumulate so much through our lives, and yet we know we're not going to take anything. And that doesn't make sense. And just living life simply just means you're not afraid because no one can take anything from you because what you have is within your intellect and your mind. And that is what we should be accumulating and not accumulating the wealth and possessions that we think society wants us to have and be in that competition. So yes, I'm learning at this stage in my life that a simple life in whatever we do, the way we dress, the things our eating habits, our interaction with people, and
Mm,
just simplifying life, short
yeah,
and sweet. That is how it should be.
great.
Okay, Shanti.
Thank you. Yes. And simplicity is also deeply connected with things that are natural. When you mentioned food and it just drew my attention to that when we live life naturally, connect with things that are natural in their original, they are simple then, it's the process that makes things complex. So even our choices that we make, the more we keep them simple, the more natural it will be, the more it will connect us with that which is authentic for us. Yeah, good. Okay, great. And yes, it makes us fearless and it makes us free. And I think if there's any attraction to wanting to be simple, I think who doesn't want to be fearless and free? Every one of us, we want that deep sense of liberation within ourselves. So just bring that awareness and make choices differently. Okay, great. So if there isn't any other comments, I'm going to play us another meditation to end of this evening. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for your comments and your participation. Shanti.
Breathing evenly and naturally, I turn my awareness inward. I find a silent space within, and I feel my own presence. I feel the pure energy of my own essence. Just me. And for a few moments, untouched by the outside world, I am a pure, silent being. There is no one quite like me. I appreciate the special feeling that is me. And I appreciate my journey through life that has led me to the present. I especially remember my early years, my spirit of innocence, my pure vision and trust, my natural spontaneity. And I recall my growth to adulthood. I recognize how my innocent spirit became overlaid by many fears, doubts, worries and troubles. But now, resting in the silent stillness of my being, I remember who I am. I go beneath the layers of fear and doubt, and I view myself and the world with innocence. I create an image in my mind that expresses my innocence. Using my imagination, I take my innocent spirit to a special place in nature. A place I have been before, or a special place that I will now create in my mind. Perhaps a hidden valley full of wildflowers. Or a serene, peaceful place by the sea. I focus on the details of my special place. I notice the shapes, the colors, the fragrances. And with a childlike innocence, my spirit begins to dance. My spirit dances naturally and joyfully, inspired by the beauty of my special place. My dancing spirit expresses my pure innocence and self-acceptance. Innocence moves me, and I dance freely. Feet gliding over the soft earth, a gentle breeze caressing my face and hair. My dancing spirit returns to stillness. And my eyes drink in the beauty of my special place. I absorb the peace and beauty of this place. It is my peace, my beauty. It is me. My spirit has once again awakened to its innocence.
So good night, everyone, and take care. Have a great weekend, and we'll connect again soon. Thank you.